Hey, Chris.
Hey, Clive.
How's it going?
It's going well. It's great to see you again, and good to see Louis not in the little app.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, glad to have
Virtual
you.
Louis.
I came here to get a T-shirt and
Don't leave it
To be
behind.
proudly worn
yes,
in the office, or?
everywhere I go. Yes.
So today we've got Chris here joining us from BIM Builders, and he's an existing user of LOD Planner, but that's not what we want to talk about. Primarily we want to talk about Chris and his experience and what he's doing with BIM and what BIM Builders is doing with BIM and how he sees the industry. And wow, that's a lot of questions to start with, but maybe tell us a bit about you and your background and where you've come from. And how did you get into this BIM space?
I'm a recovering architect. When I was in fourth grade, I walked through a architecture school at the U of A, and I saw a little picture or drawing of a person on a bridge. And I thought, that's really cool to be able to be an artist and make spaces for people. And it stuck with me all through high school and in college, and I said, I'm going to be an architect. So went to architecture school, survived architecture school, worked for architects in Arizona and in California, and it was really in that advent of digital modeling from Form Z and AutoCAD, on a Mac, and I had the opportunity to learn how to use Revit and eventually train teams on learning how to use Revit as an architect. And I rediscovered my passion in teaching. So had the good fortune of working with a major general contractor that was just getting started using BIM, and I got introduced to a lot of the call it lingo.
So you started by, you said there was this picture or drawing on a wall of this guy on a bridge, and that kind of hooked you into
architecture,
design and construction world. And then
the next sort of chapter is how do you rally a team,
right?
An internal team, an external team around BIM use, and that's the challenge that I love solving every day. I wake up in the morning.
So okay, I'm terrible for this because we write some questions and then end up not even reading the questions. Let me just take a stock check. Some of the BIM tools. So you talked generally about tools. Can you be sort of
specific
just
on
like
software?
What's the stack that you use?
So we have the Revit, the AutoCAD, the Navisworks. We love iConstruct. iConstruct, Navisworks, BIMTrack is our trio.
Nice.
Group. This is how we clash, and then this is how we group, and this is how we create issues. In the Autodesk BIM 360 Docs platform, and we've used Ecodomus on delivering FM models to clients. Early adopter of Assemble. I don't want to leave anyone out. Got to give a shout out to Struction Site.
Cool.
What else?
So that's mostly with the 3D and 2D as
LOD
well.
Planner. Don't forget about LOD Planner. The Synchros, and then on the VR world we have Unreal Engine and Rhino. My guy sitting next to is a Rhino fiend, and he's just taught a class on using Rhino, but the list goes on.
How do you do that? So in some of our former interviews, we've been talking about how sometimes companies have innovation teams that explore that. How do you go about that? How does an idea come up or a new piece of software, and how does that get?
That is a delicate. I mean, what I really like is the choosing by advantages method. There's a clever website called WeCision, WECISION, WeCision.com.
Okay.
And it's a very robust choosing by advantages tool. It's free, very collaborative, reminds me a lot of LOD Planner. But evaluating your goals, to defining your solutions, potential solutions, and evaluating them to see whether they fit the, if there's a problem solution fit there.
We are totally open, and this is a shout out to anybody. We have links to each of our team members' calendars. There's a consolidated calendar. If you want to get 30 minutes with one of us, we learn so much from engaging with customers that means so much to us. There were 3 or 4 nuggets of gold, let alone the list of other things that, as we went through some user testing earlier on the new version, and they are now being incorporated as we speak into the app. So that's the power of the relationship between somebody using a tool and somebody creating a tool.
Yeah.
And it's been a frustration in my past where a user has had a great idea, and the time between the great idea and it being available in the software is measured potentially in not only months, but potentially years.
Yeah.
And that is the most incredibly frustrating thing. But now with the technology that we have and the capability where everything is online and available and continuously improving, it literally is a case of we can get something solved, improved within the matter of, don't want to overpromise and say that it's hours, but sometimes it is. But most of the time, within a few days. And that is incredible, the difference. And that nimble ability of software companies now is something that vendors would love it if users actually tried to almost abuse it.
Oh, I abuse it.
Give us more feedback, because that's how we get better. That's the only way we can improve. So really, Okay, so we went kind of a sidebar, a few different sidebars. So how has LOD Planner changed your workflow? Oh. This is a very direct question about the product.
Well, I remember sending you a note on a little chat window. Clive, I am playing music with LOD Planner right now. And after I said that, I was like, that must have sounded weird. But then
I asked for what song?
What song? Yeah. I was like, here's a YouTube video of this song and that song. Okay, gotta stop. But I'm thinking of a meeting I had yesterday with the project engineer. Mm-hmm. And I could sense some anxiety from the project engineer around potential scope gaps in the modeling.
Nice.
And I'm thinking, okay, let's open up LOD Planner, and this is what we agreed to. This is in the contracts for the trades. We have our own in-house metal framing. Why aren't they modeling ceilings? I made sure that they did. Transparent, honest discussion around who's modeling what.
Okay.
And to have it documented in a very visual way is a blessing.
So what happened before? What's the difference between what you were doing before and what?
It was buried in an Excel spreadsheet that just glazed over. People hated that Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
Because it is not accessible. I mean, I loved the idea, but getting people rallied around it was not, it wasn't worth the effort. But the scope panel of LOD Planner, we can have solid discussions around it. I could coach Bianca in Seattle how to tell me what model content did she update based on what the point cloud said was there. So what LOA did you make this?
Right.
And okay.
So you're using it to communicate internally as well as define contracts that are just printed in Excel.
We don't stop developing the scope.
Nice.
Yeah, because take the example of we had an as-built model, quote unquote, and we got a point cloud. So we're adding value to the model content. We're validating it. So it moved from 300 to 500. How do we describe 500? Well, we go to LOA. It's LOA 220, right?
And that's an interesting one. So there's a huge misconception in the industry that, especially when we just use these random numbers, not random, but the scale of numbering, that when you are increasing the number from whatever, 200, 300, 400 to 500, there's this, that must be so much more. That must be so much more.
That means you can see the bolts and the threads, right?
Right. And that's a huge misconception.
Yeah.
But,
and it's,
So how,
it's almost like the 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D discussion.
Right. I want 9D because that must be better. Yeah. I want LOD 600 because that's got to be best.
Did you hear that they came out with 90 now? Yeah, it's just.
So one of the things we actually talked about this earlier. Our goal is to just say exactly what needs to occur, so that somebody doesn't have to use another interpretation, or there's zero gap between what is said and what is interpreted.
And that is beautiful. Just that. I mean, that is, and that's what LOD Planner has done for us as an industry. It's made BIM planning accessible to more people.
That's cool.
It's made people more engaged in the BIM plan. the BIM planning process.
Mhm.
It's no longer a stack of paper in the filing cabinet. It's a living, breathing document. And I had a discussion with one of my team members around, hey, didn't we say we were going to update those templates? Like, well, let's wait to see where this project evolves, and then let's backfeed the template.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just sort of this organic sort of evolution of a BIM plan. And when I texted you and said, I'm playing music with this thing, it's like, it continues to have a life of its own, and it's fun. Yeah.
That's cool to hear. So, having a process that's actually, and historically when I've been using spreadsheets to be able to define things, and nothing against spreadsheets. They are awesome. Spreadsheets are awesome. It's just that using it for defining
it can turn a lot of people off.
It's less collaborative potentially. So
less collaborative is better word.
And having people say a picture is 1,000 words. Yeah. And so that opportunity to have thousands of pictures in a grid that you can click and turn on and off, it kind of, we've heard and seen, and I think you're reinforcing that it helps people to communicate in a much more rapid way. You don't have to read a lot. You can just click and visually see this thing building and agree in a lot shorter time span than it has been in the past.
Yeah.
The part that,
and I can add to that that we're peeling off a veil of a lot of personalities, egos, lingo, and said, this is what it is. Let's just get to work.
Right.
Yeah.
If somebody asks for, and this happens a lot, could I have an LOD 300 model? Yeah, it's like how do I react to this? Because one, it's very commonly understood now, thankfully, that a whole model is not at a certain LOD. That's kind of a really good thing for everyone to understand. But also, what is LOD 300? Even if you speak to any expert out there, you'll, as soon as you, okay, let me just check. So, page. Okay, LOD 300 means, okay, I sort of understand that now.
Have you come to your own understanding, Clive, of what LOD 300 is? Have you come to peace, or have you moved beyond?
No, we are all about saying exactly what needs to occur. So it's which elements are needed. Sure, how much detail is required? How developed are they? How mature? How reliable should they be? How accurate should it be? How much information should be there? Who should do it at that point in time? What the handoff is, we've talked about from one, there's all of that.
But most importantly, why?
And why? What is the BIM use? What is that? What is the purpose of that content that's being created?
And that should pull the spec.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And it should pull it in a way that somebody can actually understand what it is that they are promising.
Yeah.
So for us, that is the umbrella of what LOD is. LOD is defining all of those different pieces in a way that is actually in a plain language that everyone can understand and agree to, and as visual as possible. And the bit that I love as well, because as soon as we started putting images in that grid on the scoping, I actually, sometimes, just kind of clicking around, it is fun. It's like, fun. It's kind of weird, and I don't want to admit it on a broadcast webinar around the world, but I just did. Yeah. It is fun. So, okay.
I get giddy about sharing. I'm like, isn't this cool? And people, their eyes light up and they can get engaged and, they can take ownership.
Right. Nice. Nice.
And that's what I like about the unlimited plan, is because now I can make anyone an editor.
This is great, and it's kind of like I said earlier, I wasn't going to talk about LOD Planner, but we do because we love it, and it's great to have a user here as well that also loves it and is selling our unlimited plan, which is fantastic.
There you go.
Definitely. Right, okay, where did we get to? What are some of the things that you have now that you didn't have before in your BIM execution plan?
A lot more swim lane diagrams.
Okay.
Yeah. And evolving swim lane diagrams.
Nice. Do you use the embed feature to embed them directly?
Yeah.
Okay.
For a while, they were in a separate section at the bottom, kind of like an appendix. Now they're just part of the BIM use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And do you use an online platform to develop them and then show them?
I love Visio.
So do you take the embed code from Visio and plug it in as a...
I export as a PNG, but
okay.
I would love the embed code.
So
I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, you can just go and click, what is the iframe?
That way I can
you can
update
edit it and it'll always
there
update.
you go.
So you then can have it in every single BIM execution plan. You never have to update it. It'll always update.
I love it.
Yeah. There is one downfall when you print that doesn't take the frame. So that is something you just have to think about there. But
okay. Yeah. It's worth it.
Kind of optimizes it.
Printing. Who prints anymore anyways?
That's what So Darren, I think Darren Roos was on. Yeah. He's almost removed the requirement for printing. It was one of the features that was reinforced time and time again. We went through usage. It was like, I need to be able to print this. And we were like, okay, let's create a printing function. And we talked about the upgrades in the printing now.
We joke, but a PDF is important to attach it to a contract.
It needs to be printed. Yeah. And one of the things we've been very aware of for a while is it needs to look good. And the documents that have been printed in the past are pretty raw. There's been a little bit of customization, but
they've been honest.
They've been honest. That's a nice way of putting it. Now, we have designers on the team, and the content and the output and the ability to actually export a document with some different variety, you customize your cover page to the nth degree, and there's a whole bunch of inbuilt, already built-in functions there. We're actually really proud of the output now.
Oh, I got a sneak peek, and I'm a stickler for graphics, and I got excited.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, what else do we have? Is there anything we're doing differently, or maybe not including as before? One of the things, so I remember very early on that you said, I forget the exact statement, but it was that you look at BIM execution planning differently now. Like it forced you to look at it differently, rather than. And I was interested to unpack that. I don't think I ever have asked you that question.
Well, I remember my first comment to Louis when I first opened that LOD planner. It felt daunting because I realized what we were using was not good enough. And LOD planner has kind of given me a clear path to some best practices, and then a solid foundation to begin to grow from that again. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. It was interesting because you're not the only person to sort of say it actually forced the thought process to be, how do I do this better, rather than essentially in a Word document. It's very much, there's so much, I don't want to say flexibility because we have the flexibility, but it's more that you can do anything to it in any place. There's no structure, or there's no force structure. Mm-hmm. So having that force structure of saying, what is this section going to be called? Yeah. What category is it placed in? What is this, is it related to a BIM use? Is it related to the technology? Is it related to, the introduction? So having those ways of categorizing.
I think Chris, sorry to jump in, but I think Chris mentioned, he separated his templates based off of whether they're going to be fixed on a project, whether they're going to be project specific.
Yeah, 3 different
sections. And instead of looking for them and scrambling them, he separated those and had them, ready to go as needed. And I think that relates to a lot of the customers that I've talked to personally, where they've already had a BIM execution plan and they thought, okay, I just need to copy and paste all my stuff. But once they saw all of the categories and the section types and the icons, it made them even realize we can do better. We can kind of rethink how we do this so that we can make a better execution plan on that next project, and a lot more easier and simple, really. So that's just, I love that fact. I never really thought about it, whether they're fixed. I've just seen some where they're residential, commercial, kind of separated the
types of project. But I think we need to close.
I wanted to add one more thing, that LOD Planner is both a tool and a process, and that's why I love it.
Nice.
It introduces the planning process. It's not just word where you can type. It guides you.
Right. So allowing structure to formulate the plan and then having some way of executing it rather than just kind of creating it? Is that, am I putting words in your mouth?
Well, it's like a mentor on your shoulder. It's like a guru. You know, it's going to show you the light along the way. I'll leave it at that.
Do you want to show us something that maybe you've been working on? Is that possible?
I would love to show you a couple projects I'm working on.
You good? Yeah.
Cool. So we're gonna cut the video out, and then we'll jump onto a demo and from Chris. If you have any questions, I'm here still. Just type them away while these guys set up.
All right. So it's always great to get an understanding of how teams are using LOD Planner, but
Michael, look at that. So Michael is developing a 40 schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I even use LOD Planner to scope out like logistics modeling.
Nice.
For our teams, just so we can set internal expectations around what our team's going to be building.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at some of the 40 schedule scope that Michael's been working on. So we have our design development, construction documents, and then construction coordination.
Mm-hmm.
So we added, this is the scope that we're developing for our 40 schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Just to really begin a discussion. All right, we're going to use the architect's model to do the stairs. Structural engineer, we're going to use their concrete model. We're going to model the grading.
Nice.
So model-based quantity takeoff, this is a great way to start a discussion around that we want to quantify.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our model-based quantity takeoff scope. And then we get into building system coordination. So we're doing some design coordination right now. And this really helps me set expectations with the design team around, hey guys, I'm going to use your model. This is what I'm looking for, with a budget on the top, saying here's the line items we added. This is the additional scope. It's just, it's a great scoping tool. And, let's see, where else are we going here? So construction coordination, you can see that, there's a little bit more detail. If we turn the images off, I get really excited when we change colors. And then when the LODs change, as I mentioned, the Clive, that is a signal to me that we're adding value somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, a visual sort of cue.
Nice.
Let's see. This is a discussion we had yesterday around, these are all the systems we validated using the point cloud.
Nice.
So we're saying, all right, this is what we can guarantee. We own it. This is all the stuff that I picked up in terms of scope for my team to model. Skylights. Put an additional requirement, model at, let's say, no-fly zone to floor.
Nice.
Because you don't want to pay for a skylight that's being covered by a duct, right?
Right.
And that would be a great addition to the scope right here, having a clearance to the ground. So just an idea for you guys.
Nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if I unisolate my scope, this is within the context of the rest of the project. We have an in-house concrete modeling. So we have our team up in Seattle that did a lot of this stuff really early on. Let's go to another. Okay, so this is a good example of taking a new look at validating a model. So we got a model from an as-built modeler. This is an interesting handoff where we're saying, okay, this is what we got. We added value. You got a point cloud, and we're going to validate the model. And we're going to say it's LOH20. And these are the systems that we compared against point cloud. And in some cases, actually moved the model geometry. So really, in a snapshot of what can you rely on.
Nice.
Let's take a look at, I said I love the swim lane diagrams. I think we might have drank from the same well. Let's see. So this is design team, construction trade partners, and then the general contractor.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea here is that this is all under the information exchange. Just describing, all right, we're developing working 3D models, posting to docs. on Thursdays, posting the glue on Thursdays. Yes, you have to post to both separately. And then we review models for coordination, right? And then the rinse repeat, right? And then at a milestone basis, we're posting to assemble, and then review model-based quantities. As you can see, we can talk about this stuff all day. And it's,
so using Matterport.
Oh, we use Matterport, yeah.
So you can embed a Matterport in here, so you could let the client kind of walk through it in the same browser.
Or even like 360 photos.
And 360 photos, yeah, from that, yeah.
Yeah. The options are now exploding. I love it.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate you sharing.
My pleasure.
And it's been a lot of fun talking with you and about this industry and what we can do for it. And I really value your input, and your input is making the product better.
Thanks.
Not just for yourself. It's for also the people that are out there using it every day. So we appreciate that. Maybe I'll just come round and we'll get back on camera to be able to say goodbye to everyone.
See ya.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your time. Louis, you've been tapping away. You're gonna
Yeah. So if I didn't get to your questions, I'll be sure to respond as usual after the webinar.
Right.
Thank you guys. Take care. Bye for now.
Cool. That was fun.